A basic path for your routes has now been laid out, and now we're going to take a look at how we can change and add to them. Most likely you won't be laying out really simple paths, so we want to get practice moving things around, adding dimensions, and adding in different fittings. First, let's look at changing one of our route's diameters. Say you've decided to change your diameter of pipe or fittings as you go along. Well, this can actually be pretty easily done. First of all, by running over these different assemblies that contain routes, we can see which ones they go with by the orange box that appears around them. We're going to change the diameter of this route, the one with the large orange box around it in the center. So all you need to do is right-click on it, and then go up to Change Route Diameter, which will be right under the Edit Route function that you've been using earlier. So when I click that, I now get to select the portion that I would like to try to change. You'll see what pops up is the first fitting selection menu and second fitting. Now, you can choose whatever you want to change and go ahead and select your fittings. So let's change the second fitting to 300 NPS S5. Now, it'll automatically select elbows and pipes and automatically save a new pipe file when you do this if you have both of these checked. So I'm going to head up, click the green check mark, and that has been automatically updated for you. So I'm going to exit out of the sketch, exit out of the assembly, and that is done. So feel free to do that whenever needed, and it is a great tool to be able to use without making any drastic changes. Second, let's look at adding some additional points to our routes. You might not only have 2 points that you're connecting, especially if you're using T's and other fittings. So I want to find this assembly over on our feature tree. So I'm going to run over until I find it, right-click, and go to Edit Route, top option in the routing selections. So now we are in our edits for our route sketch. I'm going to take this slip-on weld flange and drag it over to this tank up here, which we're going to try to add to our route. I'm going to select the top configuration. And now we're done adding the flanges, and you can see we have this stub length. Now, this length is actually contained in the same route as this one down here. So when we're working on dragging it around or connecting it, it's all going to be contained within the same assembly, and it's going to be easy to work with, especially if you want to connect these two. Let's drag this out a little bit longer so that it's easier to work with and see as we go along. So now it has been added to the same route. However, say you made a mistake. Maybe you don't want that pipe length in there. All you need to do is go up to Trim Entities, click that, and now this is going to be used just like you do in a 2D sketch. I'm going to click on this segment that was created before and trim it, and it's immediately gone. You'll see the flange is still included, but the pipe segment is gone. I'm going to exit my sketch, exit the assembly. And so now you'll see we have this over here, this assembly. I'm going to go down and look at the drop down. So this weld flange is actually still included. Since we added this to our route, it became part of this assembly. Say you don't want this in here anymore, you can go ahead and right-click and delete it. Now you'll notice you'll get a note that says either delete the subassembly or delete only the selected components. We only want to delete this flange and no other elements, so make sure to click only the selected components. If this is what you want to do every time, feel free to click Don't Show This Again as well. Now, it will also delete the relations that are related to that flange, which in this case were the ones that were created upon the smart mate when the flange was placed. I'm going to click Yes, and that flange is now gone. Now, just a note, sometimes when you're adding a flange, you might not have had the Auto Create Route function on in your options. If this was the case, your flange is actually going to be added outside of your routing assembly. For example, this flange here, you can see is connected to this over here, this part. So I'm going to click on this, and I want to drag this into the assembly with the pipes so that they can all be contained in the same subassembly. If I go down, I can see that that is going to be this subassembly right here. I'm going to click on the part and just drag it right down into that. And there you go. It has been directly added to that subassembly. So moving forward, it'll be much easier to work with, and it'll be all contained under the same option. So now that our first edits have been made to our routes, next up is to look at how to edit in order to add crucial fittings to our design.